2025 was not a quiet year. It was not a year of waiting. It was a year of movement. Across Africa and the Caribbean, men and women of African heritage did something powerful in 2025. They acted. They refused invisibility. They rejected small thinking. They stood up in boardrooms, in classrooms, in parliaments, in streets, studios, labs, farms and digital spaces and said, "We are here and we are shaping the future." In 2025, African and Caribbean leaders didn't just respond to the world, they redefined their role in it. Women stepped forward as decision makers, not side notes, from governance to climate action, from education reform to community rebuilding. After storms and conflict, African and Caribbean women proved again that leadership with empathy is leadership with strength. They built consensus where others pushed division. They organized where systems failed. They carried communities forward when the odds said stop. Men rose too, not as symbol of dominance, but as builders, protectors, innovators and mentors. Entrepreneurs created jobs where none existed. Young men used technology, art and activism to challenge corruption, police brutality and economic exclusion. Elders passed wisdom forward, grounding progress in memory and identity. In 2025, African heritage was not just something remembered, it was something activated. We saw historic cooperation between Africa and the Caribbean, trade, diplomacy, culture, reparative justice, and shared strategy. Not symbolic handshakes, but real frameworks, real conversations, real plans, a recognition that separated by ocean does not mean divided by destiny. We saw youth refuse silence. They questioned power. They demanded accountability. They turned pain into platforms and platforms into purpose. We saw artists and storytellers reclaim the narrative, no longer asking for permission to be celebrated. Music, film, literature, fashion, and digital media carried African heritage into global consciousness with pride, intelligence, and originality. We saw resilience tested by storms, insecurity, economic pressure, and still people rose, not because it was easy, but because giving up is not in our heritage. Giving up is not in our inheritance. Why does this matter? Because 2025 wasn't an endpoint, it was a signal. It showed us what happens when a people remember their worth, organize their energy, align their vision. It's proven that progress doesn't arrive by accident. It is built by discipline, hope, and courageous action. It is built by discipline, hope, and courageous action. And that's why 2026 will be even bigger. In 2026, the seeds planted in 2025 will grow louder, stronger, and more coordinated. More African-led innovation, more Caribbean-driven policy influence, more women shaping national agendas, more young people turning protest into policy, ideas into institutions, and dreams into enterprises. The confidence is already there. The networks are already forming. The mindset has already shifted. The mindset has already shifted. What changes next year is scale. Because once the people stop doubting their power, history accelerates. 2026 will not just bring more events, it will bring more ownership, more control over resources, more cultural authority, more global respect, not begged for, but earned and enforced. So, stand tall, stay disciplined, build together. 2025 reminds us who we are. 2026 will show the world what happens when we move as one. This is not a moment. This is a movement. Praise be. In unity is strength. 2025 was not a quiet year. It was not a year of waiting. It was a year of movement. Across Africa and the Caribbean, men and women of African heritage did something powerful in 2025. They acted. They refused invisibility. They rejected small thinking. They stood up in boardrooms, in classrooms, in parliaments, in streets, studios, labs, farms, and digital spaces, and said, "We are here and we are shaping the future." In 2025, African and Caribbean leaders didn't just respond to the world, they redefined their role in it. Women stepped forward as decision makers, not side notes, from governance to climate action, from education reform to community rebuilding. After storms and conflict, African and Caribbean women proved again that leadership with empathy is leadership with strength. They built consensus where others pushed division. They organized where systems failed. They carried communities forward when the odds said stop. Men rose too, not as symbol of dominance, but as builders, protectors, innovators, and mentors. Entrepreneurs created jobs where none existed. Young men used technology, art, and activism to challenge corruption, police brutality, and economic exclusion. Elders passed wisdom forward, grounding progress in memory and identity. In 2025, African heritage was not just something remembered, it was something activated. We saw historic cooperation between Africa and the Caribbean, trade, diplomacy, culture, reparative justice, and shared strategy. Not symbolic handshakes, but real frameworks, real conversations, real plans, a recognition that separated by ocean does not mean divided by destiny. We saw youth refuse silence. They questioned power. They demanded accountability. They turned pain into platforms and platforms into purpose. We saw artists and storytellers reclaim the narrative, no longer asking for permission to be celebrated. Music, film, literature, fashion, and digital media carried African heritage into global consciousness with pride, intelligence, and originality. We saw resilience tested by storms, insecurity, economic pressure, and still people rose, not because it was easy, but because giving up is not in our inheritance. Giving up is not in our inheritance. Why does this matter? Because 2025 wasn't an endpoint, it was a signal. It showed us what happens when a people remember their worth, organize their energy, align their vision. It's proven that progress doesn't arrive by accident. It is built by discipline, hope, and courageous action. It is built by discipline, hope, and courageous action. And that's why 2026 will be even bigger. In 2026, the seeds planted in 2025 will grow louder, stronger, and more coordinated. More African-led innovation, more Caribbean-driven policy influence, more women shaping national agendas, more young people turning protest into policy, ideas into institutions, and dreams into enterprises. The confidence is already there. The networks are already forming. The mindset has already shifted. The mindset has already shifted. What changes next year is scale. Because once the people stop doubting their power, history accelerates. 2026 will not just bring more events, it will bring more ownership, more control over resources, more cultural authority, more global respect, not begged for, but earned and enforced. So, stand tall. Stay disciplined. Build together. 2025 reminds us who we are. 2026 will show the world what happens when we move as one. This is not a moment. This is a movement. Praise be. In unity is strength. Praise be. Yes. In unity is strength. This is the motivator here. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. Yeah, you gotta believe that, people. You gotta believe that. Yeah, you gotta believe that. That's why these podcasts are to you live and direct. And I've got to tell you, these past few days, again, I know I say it every time, I've had the privilege to meet some inspired human beings. Inspired because often these are people who are just honest, well meaning individuals who've arrived at the evaluation of their circumstances. They're aware of their own capabilities to do good for others and do so without question and do so without expecting wealth or adulation in return. These are just good people, inspired human beings. Yes, that's how I define them, inspired human beings. If we can continue to multiply their numbers, we will transform the world. Absolutely. And thank you for staying with us this past, what, 12 months? Oh my gosh. 2025 almost concluded. So, what now follows as part of the Motivator podcast series will be a wrapping up of the year. And the first of that process will be today's interview, in which I've invited an international group of Africans from Africa, the Caribbean, the Americas, and here in Europe to speak on the issues of today, specifically from a political and sociological point of view. What is happening in our politics and our societies? Those seminal impacts, those seminal events, yeah, those seminal activities, those seminal personalities. Who are they? What are they? Yeah? What is happening? And you'll find the interview, which is a panel interview that follows, is truly inspirational. So this is the first of those panel discussions. It will be followed in our next session, which will look at economics and technological advancement, both in Africa, the Caribbean, and beyond. That will be truly a powerful example of how Africa, the Caribbean, are advancing at a rate of knots. Oh, yeah, that will be truly inspirational, truly inspiring, encouraging to you all. Those are budding entrepreneurs out there. Watch this space in our next session. That will be followed by a special session reserved for women. I've said it all year and previously. It's critically important to listen to the views of women. Mhm. Women play an incredibly important part in all of our communities, in all of our societies. Okay. It is vital to listen to the words and opinions of women of all ages and all backgrounds. Important to listen, appreciate, and seek to understand what is being communicated. Okay. For these past 50, 60, 70 years, there's been a radical reform for the role of women in societies globally, across the world. So it's really important to hear how that change has impacted them positively, negatively, or however they describe. Vitally important. And last but not least in the series of podcasts, will be one for those who are aged between 18 or maybe 16 and 35. The youth. Africa, indeed, much of the Caribbean, are home to the youngest societies on the planet, in the world. Mhm. They provide an energy, a dynamism for change. And those who get in the way of that change, okay, are usually the ones that get run over. Therefore, it's vitally important for us to hear the views of those youth, our young people, the next entrepreneurs, the next business leaders, yeah, the next political leaders, yeah, next leaders of our faith organizations. It's vitally important to hear, and they will allow us to wrap up 2025. I suspect the youth section will be pretty direct, and us of a more mature age will have to be accountable for them, for the world that we will bequeath to them. Oh, yeah. I anticipate that will be a fascinating podcast. I've got some fascinating personalities lined up, and they're not shy to express a view, and that's for sure. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll be fascinating. But just compiling each of these podcasts is a great pleasure. And I know that there are tens of thousands of you who are tuning in, come out to tune in, but I would encourage you to think about pressing that subscribe button, or notification button here on YouTube. Just that it tells YouTube algorithm that the content we provide, we'd like it further disseminated. Yeah? And it's a way of supporting the channel. We appreciate your support. And thank you for your words of encouragement. We truly appreciate you. Again, thank you. And lastly, I want to just say this, that this past year has been a fascinating year, 2025. It is most certainly just setting the theme for 2026. And those of you who were able to watch the intro video will understand what I mean by that. Okay, will be bigger, better, even more organized. The future is what we make of it. Praise be. Thank you again. Thank you for your support. Spread the word. Spread the word. Spread the word. I want to give one announcement before I go into the health promotions and lifestyle messages. Just one announcement. An announcement is, of course, a prior guest on the Motivator show. And that's another one of these remarkable human beings. And that's Lee Jasper. Here in Britain, he's very well known. He is a community activist par excellence. Okay. He, of course, has been highlighting the catastrophe that befell the Caribbean, particularly Jamaica and other islands such as Haiti, as a result of Hurricane Melissa. Okay. I want to play a 2 minute video he's put together where he's calling upon the British government to give generously to those who are destitute in Jamaica and indeed Haiti for no fault of their own. It is not the fault of Jamaica that the Atlantic and indeed Caribbean seas are warming up and stimulating violent hurricanes with increasing violence with successive years. Last year, we had Hurricane Beryl, about 150 miles an hour. This year, we had Hurricane Melissa, 185 miles per hour. To be in such winds is extremely dangerous, but most certainly destructive to property and to humans. We called upon the British government, Britain, the first country to be in the so-called Industrial Revolution, has pumped out tens of billions of tons of atmospheric warming gases, tens of billions of tons. And there's a direct causal link between the industrialization, particularly here in Britain and Europe and the Americas and Japan, and the extreme weather conditions that we're now experiencing in the gradual warming up of the planet, which we should all be very aware about. So I'm going to play a short video that Lee put together. And please listen, kids. It's only 2 minutes. It's a worthwhile listen.
Hey family, my name's Lee Jasper. I'm a veteran activist here from London, England. And I just want to talk about Hurricane Melissa and the British government and the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's response to that hurricane. Family, look, Jamaica and areas of the Caribbean are on its knees. People are desperate, homeless, unable to access medical supplies and treatment. Children are left homeless because their grandmother's house has been completely obliterated. People are unable to go to school. People have no valid forms of employment. And all Britain can offer is £7 million. I mean, it's a disgusting insult to the Jamaican community. And we should be very clear in terms of what our response should be. I'm not sure what we're supposed to say, but thank you to Keir Starmer for 7 million change. I could find more change down the back of this sofa than Starmer seems to have found for Jamaica. And just imagine, people, we spent 20 billion on war for the Ukrainians, 20 billion. And we opened our doors, as we should have done, to victims of war who needed a safe evacuation. But we have exactly the same scenario with people in Jamaica and other areas of the Caribbean, whereby they're homeless, they've got no form of valid long-term employment, they're living on emergency package. Those of us who are in the United Kingdom, who have relatives throughout the Caribbean, should be able to relax our humanitarian visa laws and bring them here so they can have quiet, convalescent and respite, care and attention from their families here in the United Kingdom, whilst Jamaica is rebuilding and they can return after that. So we're calling for two things, family, and need your 100% support on this, because once all the Christmas and the emergency stuff has died away, Jamaica is still going to be in a problem, and probably even a bigger problem if the rumoured health outbreaks and epidemics break out as a consequence of lack of sanitation and clean water. And so I'm calling on you to support our petition. You might be able to see the QR code there if I just move to the side. Here is the QR code. Hope it's visible. If not, then maybe I can make it more visible. Here is the QR code. All you have to do is put that into your phone and sign the petition. We also have a public meeting on the 12th of December at the engine room in Tottenham Hale. We've done one meeting in Brixton. We're doing another in Tottenham Hale, and we're having another hurricane emergency meeting in Wales, Manchester, as well as Preston. And why are we doing this, family? Because we think we need a national lobby of Parliament on Prime Minister's Question Time to take 5,000, 6,000 of us to Parliament to press the Prime Minister and your individual MP to increase aid to Jamaica, as Dawn Butler's already written in The Guardian to that effect, and we're fully supportive and behind that. To talk to your Prime Minister and MP and lobby them to relax the visa control. How is it that an 8-year-old child whose parents live in the United Kingdom and who was living with her grandmother in Jamaica is denied visa entry on humanitarian grounds to the United Kingdom? But that's what the latest stories we're seeing coming out of The Guardian and other news outlets. So we need a national lobby. Give Jamaica much more aid. 7 million, make that 50 million. How about that? How we make it 50 million pounds next year that the UK government gives to Jamaica to recover. Humanitarian visa restriction? Yes, so that we can give people respite. Because our family, they're our community. And we're here suffering the anxiety of not knowing we can help but we can't get them into the country. So I'd ask you to support our call on the Prime Minister to increase aid and relax visa applications. And finally, family, this is going to happen every year with increasing intensity. So Britain and the West, as the major polluters, must pay. They must pay recompense for climate justice in those countries, or else otherwise, two hurricanes of Melissa's size in over a period of 18 months, as we saw with Beryl and Melissa, would just leave the island completely unsustainable and devastated. Britain must pay more. Britain owes more. Jamaica helped build this country, and they're giving us 7 million. Take it. And I'm asking you to organise mobilising meetings in your local community area so we can take thousands of our community in the new year to the Houses of Parliament to lobby on behalf of our people who are struggling in Jamaica. Thank you. Scan the QR code if you didn't do so already. There it is. And share the video. Peace.
Thank you, Lee. Your points are well made, and there's no pushback here. £7 million is it is clearly a drop in the ocean. Clearly, the historical link between Britain and Jamaica go back hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. We even share the same monarch. Huh? The King of Britain is indeed the King of Jamaica. Huh? If you didn't get the QR code, let me put it back on the screen again. There you are. That's a QR code. So at any point, if you're watching the recording of this live transmission, you can simply use your phone to capture that information. It is vital that we come together. And I say again, in unity is strength. Thank you, Lee. Keep up the good work. Outstanding human being. Outstanding human being. Thank you for listening. That was a worthwhile appeal. The whole purpose of the Motivated Show is to inform and to encourage, to inspire, so that you realize your own personal potentials. And that potential, I'm assuring you, is unlimited. It's only limited by your imagination, your self belief, your confidence in yourselves. You are indeed the change makers. There's a person from the African Continental Unity Party. His name is King Kabila. I love quoting this man. Now, what he would say, that we all have a responsibility for change. We should not rely upon some messianic figure to do it for us. It is our responsibility. It is our responsibility to affect the changes. It's our responsibility to make the demands, to insist upon those demands being met. It is our individual responsibility. By coming together and we magnify our voices in unity is strength. Praise God. Oh, yes. Lots of. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Okay. But thank you, Lee. Thank you, Lee. What to do now? I want to go to the next segment of the Motivated Show, which is, of course, the all important lifestyle messages. The lifestyle messages came about as a result of my personal activities across my own communities, the communities that I serve, which is a diverse community. What was quite striking with the people I was meeting is that every other door a person was weighed down with one of the typical public health conditions. What I found, which apparently is the case across Britain and most certainly the case in the Caribbean and part of Africa, is diabetes. The prevalence is remarkable. Yeah, approaching what 40% or some absurd figure. Mhm. In the Caribbean, it's above 50%. Mhm. Hypertension or high blood pressure, but the other one keeps coming up. And the other one, which is really very obvious, and that's obesity or fatness. particularly when it affects women. The long term, not only health consequences, particularly when you're having birth and so on, is significant. And obesity, of course, generally shortens lives. I'm not the expert. I'll leave you to speak to your own doctors and so on. But obesity generally shortens your life. I kept coming across these conditions, and I realized at this point that we do not talk about these conditions sufficiently, even though the experts have identified them as being serious public health concerns. And whilst there are public health messages proliferate in the communities, there are installs and platforms that generally were not impacting the communities most affected. And I say communities most affected deliberately, because certainly those of us of African heritage, particularly from the Caribbean and parts of Africa, or indeed the Americas, are particularly impacted by these conditions. Indeed, communities from South Asia, particularly India and Pakistan, Bangladesh, are most certainly affected by these conditions. Therefore, it's weighing down on the communities in significant ways. Therefore, it's incumbent upon me. You'd expect that I must, and you would understand, give platform to how we can combat what is essentially a scourge within the communities. So look around for the experts, people who can articulate these messages in ways that we can all understand and appreciate, not become defensive, huh? Yes, not become defensive. It is incumbent upon me to spend but a few minutes in each of my podcasts for lifestyle messages. I want you to hear the words of the Public Health Director for London, indeed South East, a remarkable human being who I've met personally. I hold him in the highest order. His name is Professor Kevin Fenton. I want you to listen to his words, not me, listen to his words, his common sense advice. You'd be surprised how common sense it is. If only we could follow it, him and me at times. If only we can follow it. Takes a certain amount of discipline, admittedly. But we hold each other's hand, hug each other, encourage each other. Anything is possible. Now listen to his wise advice. Professor Kevin Fenton says, I'm a public health director. Here are 5 things you can do to improve your health. 1. Mindful and balanced eating. Nourish wisely. Eat whole, balanced meals with awareness to support energy and well-being. 2. Get outside. Be with nature. Time outside reduces stress, improves mood, and strengthens your connection to the world. 3. Stay curious, stay engaged, explore new interests, keep your mind sharp, build social contacts, and boost your happiness. 4. Get active, move it or lose it. Move daily, lift weight, and do cardio. Exercise, improve physical, mental, mood, and energy. 5. Prioritize rest and sleep. Disconnect, rest. Quality sleep supports mental clarity, emotional balance, and overall health. And there you have it. Common sense advice. But you think, well, that's common sense. But we need to apply it consistently. That's really the word. Consistency. That is the important word here. Consistency. He's devoted his entire life to our health and well-being, and able to distill his own learning, his own, and therefore teach us using words that we can all understand. Language we absolutely understand. Common sense advice. Thank you, Professor Kevin Fenton. And if you can implement what he suggested, okay, consistently, it's likely that you will improve your general health and well-being. Although Nothing supplements. You make a regular visit to your doctor. Yeah. And men, look, I'm included one. You should at least go to a doctor at least once a year to have an annual checkup. At least once a year, no matter what your age, once a year. I want to encourage you to do so. Yeah, yes, man. But I was included on it. Don't worry. Yeah, it's vitally important. So if there is an illness, it can be caught early rather than after the fact, as it were. And I say to many women, particularly within the African and some Asian communities who are clearly overweight, carrying excess weight, you are heavier than the men. So I get it, and I've spoken to many women on these points. I get it. It's a habit taking in excessive amount of calories. It's a habit. But I've been to functions where women are eating more than the men, or you notice the men are relatively slim, and their girlfriends or wife are, carrying this excess weight. I get it. This is not to shame or embarrass, for we're but one family, one human family. We need to take care of each other. This is not intended to embarrass. It is intended to inform and to alert us to potential dangers. The professor has spoken. To implement his advice, we set ourselves up for a better life. What I'm heartened by is the numbers of you who've heard these messages, understood their importance, and have incorporated it as part of your consciousness, and therefore are demonstrating that you want difference for yourself, change for yourself. You are the change maker, the King Kabbalah of the African Continent Unity Party would say. You are the change maker. It's your decision, your individual decision that can have cumulative impact. In other words, you can influence others by your individual decision. If you exercise at the very least, and now thinking about your food consumption, at the very least, only will you improve the conditions for yourself, but you influence those who you are close to. And in doing so, you have that wave impact. So what I'm heartened by is the numbers of you who've come together in common aim and common purpose and understood if we work together, we are more likely to succeed together. Yes, you could do it quite very quickly by yourself. I know there are many activities, so actors out there who just like to do things by themselves, and I get it why you want to do that. Look, I get that. But if you want long, sustained success, we must work together. Don't be ashamed to hold someone's hand and say, well, look, I just need you to encourage me so I can go exercising tonight. I need a bit of encouragement, but I can see these wonderful sweets. I've got a sweet tooth, but I need someone to hold my hand so I can resist the temptation. That's what it takes. A bit of empathy, a bit of love, he said. That's what it takes. So what I'm heartened by, the number of you come together in common aim and common purpose. I've understood if we work together, we're likely to succeed together. So I want to give you an example of people who've come together in common aim, common purpose, who've understood working together, exercise together, can indeed be transformative. And most certainly, you'll be happier for the experience. I'm going to share with you a group of people who pooled their resources and now regularly exercise together. This is the Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into action, and the success is ours. So to take it. There you go. Right. Come on now, let's exercise together. Come on, this only 2 minutes. It's a 2 minute video. We can exercise for 2 minutes. Come on. There we go. That's right. That's right. Let's exercise together. Come, bend your knees. Come on, bend your knees. That's right. Bend your knees now. That's right. Oh, You got it. You're doing great. I see you. Oh, that's right. We're improving our lifestyle. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Set your arms now. That's right. Set your arms. Oh, there you are. It's only 2 minutes. That's right. You've got it. Oh, I feel you. I can feel you. That's right. That's right. You're doing it right. You've got it right. That's right. You see, they're bigger than small. They're wider than thin. But they come together in common aim and common purpose. That's exercise. Good stuff. It's only 2 minutes, but it makes all the difference. That's right. There you go. Oh, she's smiling. They're all smiling at us. Children with them as well. That's right. Inculcate good practices in our children. And in doing so, they take those practices into their later life. And they'll be better off for it. There you are. That's it. Yeah, yeah. That's it. Oh, she's smiling again. Oh, gosh. Come on now. Let's do this together. It makes all the difference. Oh, there you go. Oh, that's right. That's beautiful. That's it. Oh, la la. Oh, la la. Oh, I can feel my hips. Oh, my God. I can feel my hips. That's right. There you go. They come together in common aim and common purpose, understanding, working together. It's far better than doing it alone. Well done, Ishmael. Well done, Ishmael. There you are. He's directing them. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to pause there. I'm going to pause there. And I hope you agree. These people came together with all these podcasts in common aim and common purpose and understood, working together with a common mission, a mission to improve their physical health and pay attention to their diet, pay attention to their health and well-being, which of course includes uh, their, uh, their, their mental and spiritual health. Yeah? That's all. That's the simple message we want to get across to you today. Just a few minutes, but you understand. In approximately 7 minutes, we'll go to the main interview. But it was necessary to share that information with you. Information of this type is mission critical. I cannot understate the tens of thousands of people or weighed down by these conditions. The UK NHS spends billions of pounds every year treating people with either these conditions or the secondary conditions that derive from these main conditions, such as heart conditions. Yeah, that is another big one. Cancer, another biggie. Yeah? That's what we need to do. We just need to show a bit of empathy for our neighbours. Yep. And in doing so, we transform the world. Look, if you're in South London and you feel you want to join, they call themselves Countdown here in London. Want to join them? Yeah, you could say the motivator. You watch it on the motivator show. I've got not a problem. The numbers continue to grow every week. Right, there you go. Here they are. They're based in South London. I know if you're overseas, it's not possible, but nevertheless, this is an example. They meet on every Monday and Wednesday between 6:30 and 8 p.m. They meet at 12 Tatum Street. That's Wharf in London. Postcode S for Sugar E17 1TN. In the email address, it's countdown0405 at gmail.com. And telephone number, speak directly to Ishmael, the other organizers. It's if you're in the UK, it's 07960 803 588. I commend the work of Countdown to you all. They are an example of many organizations across Britain. Well done to you all. Well done to you all for hearing the messages, not being embarrassed, not feeling grumpy as a result of the messages, but have simply responded. Common aim and common purpose. We all have an interest in promoting good health and well-being within all communities. Thank you, and thank you for your listening ear. Thank you for your listening ear. What I now need to do is now prepare the way for the panel interview that's coming up. which will have a particular emphasis on politics and social issues on this occasion. Uh, but it's an important one. Okay, there's some issues with sound time because it's live and they're across the world and so on. But the essence, the substance, is well received. Okay? And why do I say that? What we need more often is to have these international panels, people from across the world. Yep, we have similar heritage and so on. We come together in common aim and common, common purpose. Because the issues of the day impact us all very much the same way. I know that there are people in Nigeria who believe that people in Jamaica are really good, you know, and they're very distinct and different somehow. Actually, they're the same people living, for the most part, under the same conditions. They're brothers and sisters, kith and kin, as it were. Ghana, South Africa, Kenya, it's the same, absolutely the same. We're not communicating enough, and therefore the divisive propaganda that we're all exposed to suggests that these are other people. You know? Here in Britain, they're affected by that malaise. You know? They're definitely being affected by it, and allowing parties who really have no right anywhere near government into government. We're not talking together enough. So once we start to talk to each other, we understand what we have in common, which is far more than what divides, potentially could divide. You offer a inoculation against those extreme right wing, and indeed sometimes extreme left wing parties. But as I say again, Britain is being affected by it. In some ways, Britain has fully yet to come to terms with its past, which is part of the problem. But Britain has a remarkable ability to insulate itself against such extremism. I just wait for it to happen quickly, please. What I can say quickly, we don't want the extremists to think that they've got foothold. Don't allow them to gain foothold. They only gain foothold because we've created a vacuum of information, empathy, caring. And that's where the foothold occurs. So I completely understand white working class people feeling dissatisfied. I say to many of them, please, you cannot now then blame just because someone is not white but is working class that they're the problem. When in fact, it is the aristocrats here in Britain who have become richer and richer over the past, 14, 20 years that I've been in politics, to be honest with you. They're the problem. They're holding all the wealth. Really. They're the problem. What we need is greater wealth redistribution, which is why I'm so pleased we now have a Labour government able to begin that process of wealth redistribution. And what I'm immensely pleased is that in the more recent financial statement, we've taken more than 500,000 children out of poverty by virtue of government support for those families. That's got to be a great thing, got to be a great action. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. But I don't want to digress. I want to now focus on what is coming forward. 2025 has indeed been a momentous year. Okay. Those of you who understand the whole purpose of the Motivator Show, to share information that inspires, to motivate you to take actions. Usually, and I think improvement, but actions. That we develop an understanding, therefore, to build up that capacity for empathy for others. Another principle of the Motivator Show. And lastly, of course, another purpose of the Motivator Show, it is, of course, to ensure that not only are we ensuring that the information that we share is, is poignant, okay, we want to ensure, and this is really important, we want to ensure the information is accurate. Why the international panel that I convene is so critical. If you rely upon the international news media, you get a completely different view of the world than what is actual, what is real. And it's that malaise, it is that which we must resist at all costs, at all costs. Okay? If in doubt, ask questions. That's what I say to people. If in doubt, ask questions. Okay. What I'm going to do now, I'm now going to move towards the international panel. The international panel is one that, well, these are truly inspired human beings. These are the types of people that really we can't go wrong. Okay, it's impossible to go wrong when you've got such people in your midst. So I'm now going to share with you details of this international panel. It will be self-explanatory, but any questions, place those questions in the chat, and we will gladly read them out if necessary. But listen carefully. It will run on for maybe 45 minutes, but we welcome your feedback. I'm going to ask my guests who are on the panel so far, and others may join us during the dialogue, okay, to introduce themselves. And if I can start with the person I can see in what will be your top left-hand corner, Kalanji, can I ask you to introduce yourself, your name, organization? You may want to say a little bit about yourself for about a minute or so. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you for me. My name is Kilanji Bangara. I was initially born in Jamaica, grew up in the UK, and for the past 20 odd years, I've been a resident here in Namibia, Africa. So I come here with an international, well as a length of many years of activism. I'm a Pan-Africanist. I'm hardcore Pan-Africanist. I consider myself. I'm really from the rest of my colleague.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Kalaja. And yes, I can attest to the audience that this is another one of those great Africans. To someone who I've learned to respect and listen to very carefully. In fact, it applies to them all. That's why they're all here. But this person, most certainly, he's smiling. Oh, he smiled. There you are. Please introduce yourself, your name, organization, just and for a minute or so, just say a little bit about yourself. Go ahead. Oh, forgive me. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just restart that recording. I'm not sure why it's lagging for a moment. I'm going to just restart it, just ensure the audio quality comes through clearly for you. Here we go. Let's see. Let's hope it works. The dialogue, okay, to introduce themselves. And if I can start with the person I can see in what will be your top left-hand corner, Kalanji, can I ask you to introduce yourself? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you for also inviting me. My name is Kilanji Bangara. I was initially born in Jamaica, here in Namibia, Africa. So I come here with an international perspective, both legally and as well as lend. I'm hardcore Pan-Africanist. I consider myself. I'm really no nonsense person. I think at this stage, let me hear from the rest of my colleague.
All right. Okay. One of those great Africans. Oh yeah, and you're going to hear his words soon. But they're all great because I now want to go to someone who I've learned to respect and listen to very carefully. Certainly, I will go to the chief first of all. Where is he? Ah, there you are. He's smiling. Oh, he smiled. There you are. Please introduce yourself. Your name.
Thank you very much, the motivator. Thank you to my co-panelists here tonight. I'm glad to meet you all. Tonight, depending on your time zone, whenever you're listening to this podcast. My name's Ike Chukwu Night Nwokoro. Here in the United Kingdom. I am a proud African. I am a proud Biafran. Coordinator of the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB. I've also served the African community here in Leicestershire. I see myself as a community servant more than anything else, even though my background of training is engineering. Which is exactly what I'm here to talk about tonight. I would love to hear more from my brothers, their perspective. Please pardon me, I'll be focusing my comment or contribution on freedom fighting, the liberation of my people, Biafra, and indeed the whole of Africa.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Thank you. And if I now may go to King Kabbalah again, another one of these inspired African men whose books are truly inspirational, books that I've had to, and I continue to reference in the majority of my podcast in 2025. I don't say that lightly. King Kabbalah, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, King Martin. Peace and love, freedom and decolonization to all African people, those abroad, those at home, and those in the future. I'm pleased again to be on your program today. Really, really honored. My name is King Kabbalah. I'm born in the colonial enclosure that we call the Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm a member of the African Continental Unity Party, where I work in the communication team as well as in the strategic team. I'm author of 5 books now, and also work in a community development. I'm pleased to meet everyone here and to discuss our affairs. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Can I invite you, King Kabbalah, just to name a few of your books? I'm sure that will pique the interest of the audience. Maybe a few of the books.
Yeah, beautiful. So my first book was The Expropriation of the Mind Without Compensation. My second book was What Time Is It? The Question to the African Millennials. My third book was The Commerce of Trust. My fourth one was Only Revolutionaries Should Read This, Others Will Be Confused. And the last book was my letter to my daughter, How African Cultures Hinders the Progress of Their Children.
Mm. You understand why I regularly quote him in my podcast, but we'll come back to him later on. Pleasure.
Thank
Can
you.
I invite Pigman to introduce himself? And Pigman is a special African. He studies relentlessly. His consciousnism sessions are truly an intellectual mind expansion experience. And if you've not experienced it, I'm going to invite you to talk more about his regular education sessions. Because if there's a lesson I've learned in my life, education. And through education, we raise awareness. Pigman, please introduce yourself. Oh, you're
Greetings,
muted.
brother. Hope you can hear me.
We can now, yes.
Comrade Pigeon Odimwengu from Kenya, a progressive or radical Pan-African. And of course, I deal a lot with as Brother Martin has said, a lot of mental emancipation or liberation, where I coordinate the Conscious and Study Group. I'm a founder and a party leader of Accountability and Transparency Party in Kenya. I was one of the presidential aspirants and still a presidential aspirant in Kenya. And above all, I love a lot of Pan-Africanism and do a lot about Pan-Africanism. Thank you.
Brilliant. Very short introduction. I'm assuring you, his works is in abundance, and later on we'll ask him about his studies, the studies of the great mind from Africa and beyond. There is many works that we need to study together, regardless of our religious, ethnic, clan, or tribal affiliation, around which we will find unity, because in unity is strength. But we'll return to Pigment, don't you worry. But last but not least, the youngest member on the panel. But you're going to hear from him in a moment, and you want to understand why he's here. Okay. In fact, I will not say why he's here, because you're going to gather that by his introduction. Okay. And thereafter, we'll ask a further question of him. Can you just introduce yourself, yourself, your organization, and just say a short bit about yourself, just so the audience can appreciate you as I appreciate you today and will into the future. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello everybody. Can everybody hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Hello everyone. My name is Mubod Juk or Mubod Juk. I come from South Sudan. Well, actually, my family comes from South Sudan. As you can probably tell, I was born and raised in the UK. My grandfather, or really my family, were refugees from the first civil war in Sudan, and I've basically been raised to be a revolutionary and to always understand, especially in our family, we were raised to with a certain narrative of what it meant to be a separate nation or to be people who were separatist in mindset. So we are now luckily in 2011 we're able to separate from the north of Sudan. And yeah, luckily at the time, I'm 34 at the moment. And in 2011, I was able to thankfully participate in the referendum that was allowed us to separate from Sudan. So yeah, so I am
All right.
the youngest
Okay.
nation of the world,
Now,
and I have a background in architecture and construction. And right now, I'm working as an electrician in the UK in London.
thank you for that introduction. Your audio is a little sketchy, but it's okay. We'll. Oh, that's better. As you get closer to your mic, maybe that's what it is. It's okay. And we can all therefore appreciate the strength of your voice, the passion,
Sure.
and the determination. Okay. And you heard his voice. He's the youngest member, but and we all, of course, have an eye on what is happening in South Sudan. Okay. We'll most certainly will touch on South Sudan as part of this dialogue. And I want to get the dialogue underway. And I want to start off in January 2025. Okay. Now, obviously, there are many events that have occurred in 2025, both across the continent of Africa, the Caribbean, and indeed America, wherever Africans reside. But there are a number of events, activities, a number of seminal occurrences that have long-lasting impact. Okay. One such, notwithstanding the campaign for Biafra in Nigeria, okay, notwithstanding that, which we will want to return to, I want to assert that the actions of the Sahel states, of course, Burkina Faso, Niger, and of course Mali, okay, leaving ECOWAS was an important seminal event. Okay. Is there a disagreement on that? If there is, why there would be a disagreement? If I can first of all turn um, to uh, to to the youngest member again, you've spoken. Would you see that as being an important event will have an impact on the future of the continent?
I believe so. I believe a lot of the younger generation believe that a lot of these organizations like ECOS and the African Union are constructs really created by those who are not of us. So for them to kind of be innovative in the sense of breaking away from the status quo, I believe that it is impactful for the youth. So I think we've seen too many times a lot of the older generation falling into these ideals or into these structures that are really of a creation of other people that are not African.
Mhm. Yes. Okay. Yes, your audio is still a little sketchy, but we heard what you said, and thank you for that. And maybe, Chief, I know you've made it clear you want to discuss Biafra, uh, but is there a correlation between what's happened with the Sahel state and the aims, objectives, the aspirations of the Biafran people?
Yes, indeed, there is. In
Mhm.
fact, like my brother just said, the youth are the future. I mean,
Yes.
we've had this even when I was very young myself, very little. That the youth are the future leaders, but they never get
Yes.
opportunity. So it was very refreshing to see Ibrahim Traore
Mhm.
take up the mantle, howbeit through a coup d'etat, which you will ordinarily label, illegitimate. But he and his team's objectives and vision are well in consonance with the aspiration of great Africans for liberation, which is exactly
Mhm.
what Biafra represents. I had a particular it's not a podcast, just a broadcast I heard where reference was made to Ibrahim Traore,
Mhm.
uh, referencing Biafra, and
Ah.
basically Nnamdi
Okay.
Kanu's broadcast, which obviously, as I said earlier, is not only for Biafrans or Nigerians, but for the whole of Africa and the Black heritage worldwide. Because it's the message of liberation, freedom, justice, equity, fairness, which is not applicable to resource utilization and control, which is the bone of contention.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
the Sahel states of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are fighting for is
Yes.
to control self-determination, to
Yes.
control their own future, utilize their God-given resources for the benefit of their own people first and foremost, and allies subsequently. Whereas the reverse is the case with the system we've had for centuries, where the colonial masters, in this case France, purportedly have given the African nations flag independence, but they are still in control of the resources and the
That's
people
right.
are just getting crumbs. So
That's right.
this aligns perfectly well with the vision, aspiration, objective of the indigenous people of Biafra for the liberation of not just Biafra, but the whole of the African continent. And I
Mhm.
personally say kudos to my brethren in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. In fact, the uprising is still ongoing, despite the
Yes.
attempt to suppress them, but they will not succeed.
Mhm. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Interesting analysis. Can I invite Pigman to comment on this theme of the Sahel state leaving ECOWAS and its significance for the continent and indeed for Africans worldwide? Pigman, what's your analysis? Oh, can you hear us? Oh, we
Can
can't
you
hear
hear
you.
us?
You're muted.
Oh, we
Yeah.
can't hear you. You're muted. Yeah.
Can't get him. Can't get him. Big Ben? Big Ben? Can't hear him. Oh, a second. Well, we've lost him. In that case, if I may, go to King Kabbalah. How do you respond to this question of the Sahel state leaving ECOWAS and significant for the continent? Is this a Pan-Africanist step forward?
Yes, I think you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Yes. So, I mean, as all the brothers have mentioned, leaving ECOWAS was a step towards liberation because ECOWAS was literally an exploitative system or structure established by France to exploit the 14 countries on the continent that were depending on French politics as well as on what is called franc CFA, which is the French colonial money, that allowed the wealth of these countries to be stored in French banks with the money that cannot be used in France but only used as a weapon of neocolonialism. So I think that step on itself was a very bold and, as I said, a step towards liberation. And all those steps that people make towards liberations as the steps that we need to celebrate. Reason being that even if they are not able to produce the intended result right now, at least they lay the foundation on which the future generation can struggle for the complete liberation of Africa. So the point being that our leaders sometimes they find themselves in a difficult situation to do what is needed for Africa to be liberated. But the least they can do is to pave a way for the future leaders, for the young people to see, to get inspired, and to also continue with the same resistance and the struggle for the ultimate liberation of Africa. So yes, the step was a bold and was positive one.
Okay. Is it a Pan-Africanist? As a Pan-Africanist, do you see it as being a Pan-Africanist, an actual step toward greater Pan-African vision?
Yes, especially for the fact that it was a decision by three African countries at the same time to exit ECOWAS. That is even the essence of Pan Africanism. It's all about collective actions. If it's one state trying to exit, well, we can celebrate that type of heroism, but ultimately it's a suicide because it's like a fish in water trying to escape the water. Then you want to kill yourself. So the fact that they're left together, they are able to create a new ecosystem in which they can live, or they can thrive. And actually it will be better, and this is our wish, to see other more countries. Unfortunately, Benin has escaped the liberation agenda, so would have liked to see other more countries joining the Sahel Alliance in order to strengthen the ecosystem which they have created so that it can function, because the success only depends on the number of countries that join together to act collectively.
Well said, well said. And I may probe you all on the question of military rulers versus democratic rulers. But before I do anything else, Kalanji, what would your view be on this matter once more, now that you've heard what has been
Well,
said? Mhm.
thank you, Mr. Motivator. I think the move was very much positive, and it also highlight the hypocrisy of the structure in ECOWAS structure as well as the African Union. It actually highlights the hypocrisy and the duplicitous natures of the leaders serving within these structures, and that these leaders are not necessarily there for the people on for Africa. Nigeria proposed to have the most intelligent of all of the African family, and the largest population have turned out under Tinubu to be the most treacherous of leadership the continent is experiencing, to join force with the enemy that we know is the enemy in its ultimate treachery. Africa represents 1.5 billion people, where 35%, 75% of them are youths under the age of 35.
Yes.
So having Captain Ibrahim Traore leading a revolutionary move similar to that of what Gaddafi was actually doing in working for the people of Africa and for Africa, as well as Nkrumah, I think the fulfillment, what and the step that both the three leaders have taken is in line with the time and is in line with real freedom, real Pan-Africanist action. You know,
Okay.
when we
Okay.
talk of Pan-Africanism, we usually feel very deceived by the behavior of African leaders. In fact, I don't trust them. I must be frank with you. They are the most treacherous of people on the planet. So having
We're
these
not
three
saying,
leaders have
just forgive
seen.
me, Kalaji, we're not saying all African leaders are treacherous, of course.
I'm not saying but the vast majority of them are treacherous. Let us be very clear.
Again, I would, just for the benefit of the audience, and so that we can keep moving forward. Okay,
Mr. Motivator, I'm a Pan-Africanist.
So are we. It's okay. It's okay.
To talk the truth.
Well, absolutely. So are we. But what I want to make sure is that we really focus on the substance here, because obviously there are. I see leaders in Namibia, for example, who I would not refer to being treacherous. She has demonstrated a vision.
No, she's fine.
Absolutely, exactly my point. Exactly my point.
Yeah,
but if I may, I'm going to move forward. I want to move forward. I want to move forward. Don't you worry. I get it. Don't worry. We get it. Don't you worry. Because we're going to heat up this conversation. But I want to go back, if I may, to the youngest member here. You don't mind me saying that each time, but anyway, okay. Of course, because what we have is a situation in Burkina Faso, which is in effect a military-controlled country now. It has put aside the type of democracy that we experience here in Britain, for example, okay, in order to secure its future. And I note that China underwent a very similar pathway. In fact, the Chinese Communist Party is, for all intents and purposes, a military juncture. Yeah, that's what it is, and it's very clear. It is a one-party state, but the whole world trades with China. Okay, should we be bothered? Should we be bothered that Ibn Traore is in fact a military man, as opposed to a person that was elected by the people? What's your view on this?
Just obviously from my background being South Sudanese, we've had to gain our independence through warfare.
Yes.
So my understanding of history in general, unfortunately, with human nature, there is a necessity to have it. They are superior in terms of organization, in terms of military, in terms of politics. So from my understanding, that unfortunately it is a necessity for there to be a military mindset when it comes to changing things. Yeah, that's as much as I can give right now.
So, in other words, you'd accept military rulers if they were able to rule with the interests of the people.
I mean, yes, but obviously that is a double-edged sword. I mean, obviously with history, it's always shown that with human nature there is a tendency for people to be corrupted by power. But if there is an let's say there is a direction that this person has communicated to his people that they want to move in a certain direction, and majority of the population are in agreement with it, I would say, it is necessity, because unfortunately, civil disobedience against someone who is more powerful than you is not really gonna go far. I mean, coming from, in particular, my family, from what I understood from my grandfather, is they tried to resist in every way that was seen as conventional, being part of politics, being part of protests, but that was not what the people in power responded to. What they responded to was military force.
Okay. Yeah. 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 We hear you. Yeah. We hear you. We hear you. And thank you for that response. It is a sort of salutary lesson, really, for us. Um, it's not a one fit all. We just got to think about regional adaptation. And if I may go to the chief here on this particular point, the military rulers or democratic rulers, what say you?
Remember, I said the introductory part that we, when I say we, I talk about Biafran, are
Yes.
the original democrats. We had our traditional democracy, which the colonial masters from Britain and elsewhere destroyed because they found it superior. So let me posit unequivocally here that the Western style democracy that has been imposed on Africa is a farce. It is indeed civilian dictatorship or indirect rule, where some people are handpicked and they come in to play, or rather do the bidding of their masters that put them in place, and not the people that are supposedly in there to serve.
Yes.
In West Africa, for example, which is where the Sahel states you talk about, and Nigeria being the chief culprit. Since Nigeria resumed so-called democracy in 1999, check the result of the elections. Even the fairest of them all is a fraud. Is always marred with electoral malpractices, rigging, killing of people, like the last one that produced the criminal, the drug baron that is in Asoro currently, Tinubu. That is not democracy. He did not win the election. He did not even score second. But clearly, Britain wanted him. They didn't want the man that won the election. They wouldn't want any other person but their puppet. And this has cascaded all over Africa. It's worse with the Francophone African nations. Most of the leaders you see, they are leaders, well, you term them right, they are rulers. They're not really leaders. They are there ruling according to the dictate of their masters, who are offshore, who are not even Africans, who do not have the interest of Africa at heart. All they care for is their own economics, what they can get out of Africa to develop for their own well-being and the well-being of their own people, who they want to silence so that they don't really know what's going on in Africa, and the siphoning of African resources, both natural, mineral, and human, continues. That's exactly what's been going on. So I do not ascribe, yes, we want democracy, but what I want is the traditional African democracy, not the Western style imposed democracy, which is alien to our people, to our culture, to our land. The gods of the land will not even permit it. And that is why it's all failing continuously. And it will never succeed. So if you have young men who have true African blood in them, like Ibrahim Traore, I'm not saying all of them, some military guys are also rogues, because they've been schooled with the colonial mentality. They come in there to do the same thing. So it doesn't matter whether you're wearing traditional wear like myself, or you're wearing khaki and have all manner of badges all over your neck, what African development. And what Africa needs are true leaders, people, compassionate, passionate leaders who understand African blood. Ibrahim proven himself to be one of such. So for me, it doesn't matter whether it's military or civilian. And the people we saw sometime earlier this year, like you said, to his life. His own people came out in the street.
That's right.
I have it on good authority that he was almost cajoled to the point of hurriedly doing a transition.
That's right.
Which other democracy is more than that? After all, democracy, they say, is government of the people, by the people,
For the people.
and for the
Yeah.
people. And in most cases, the government for the people, not of the people, not by the people. It's just the government
Indeed.
for the people, as handpicked and imposed by those who want to control the liberation. Would
Thank you.
definitely have to start from the mind. You cannot liberate yourself physically unless you're liberated in your mind.
For the mind.
And that is what
Can I
exactly this
ask you
young man.
So you see, Kalachi, I agree. I agree. What I'm very careful not to do is to identify particular personalities for now. Okay, and there are good reasons. Able to join us, but his consciousnism classes are an example of that re-education process in King Kabada. You have similar uh, education classes within your own party. You may just want to elaborate, give us a few minutes on what you do in order to its unique features.
Yeah, yes, King. So we have what is called the the school through which we are trying to produce the leaders who are fit to. So when you look, I mean, there's a difference between a state and a nation. A nation is a group of people because of the historical background, so forth and so on, culture and all those things, to become a nation, right? To work together, to develop, to grow. But used to govern the nation. Now, what happens mostly in Africa is that our leaders, most of our leaders, when the they are sworn in, say their allegiance towards the state, not towards the nation,
Mhm.
right? Most of all the states that we have in Africa are colonial projects. They are not institutions or instruments for African development. Even if they are well intended, when they get in those environment, they found themselves or they find themselves being driven by certain uh, lenient towards the needs of European countries who are colonialist countries. It means to take the resources of Africa to supply them so that the kids who grow up for them when they finish school, they have a job, they have a house. While the kids in Africa, where the resources are taken, they don't have those expectations. So, what we're trying to do is to create a new type of as a tools, but to the nations as their people. So we train leaders in two areas: political leadership as well as business leadership, because we believe that a human being in order to keep him in balance. So when we have leaders competent in political leadership as well in business leadership, we'll see Africa in a different way.
Thank I want to just take us into February. And within in light of King Kabala's outlining like confidence, the event that spent a good 1,000 hours in preparation for this show is the event that may not appear to be significant until you think it through. Niger, and I wonder if you can remember why Niger expelled the International Red Cross. They expelled them because they were critical, both in terms of governance and indeed its defense of its borders. And there some people died. Yeah. And the Red Cross were criticizing insurgents who were, of course, seeking to destabilize the country. So they took that extraordinary step, which very rarely happens, where the and I know that this doesn't happen. For that to happen, for a country's leadership to have that level of confidence, yeah, they have we should go from the chief first of all.
Yes, that's move. I wouldn't completely condemn the Nigerian government, given I'll follow that particular news. Yes, we do appreciate the work some international agencies like the Red Cross do. In Biafra, for example, I'm sure my brother from South Sudan may also have a similar or at least related experience or stories is gathered from that humanitarian organizations and bodies do. But largely in Africa too, we know that some of those agencies, appendage, if you like, of neo-colonialism, that they also represent the same interest that the Sahel to get away from. We do know, I'm a Christian, for example, that even Christian missionaries have been used. So it is not entirely out of place that the Nigerian government found something sinister at the time.
Yes. Yes.
I want to believe that they must have some intelligence.
Yes.
That led to that decision. To the fact that the International Red Cross Society is a renowned humanitarian organization that do more of service to communities where they operate. But then, in hindsight too, as I said to you, such agencies have been used. And we know how that's why what happened in Benin Republic last week happened. We'll come to
Come on
that.
to that, yes. We'll come
They've
to
been
that,
very,
yes.
he in particular has been very desperate. He's tried to Can
Right. I'm sorry about that. We have a slight problem with the sound for that recording. We're just working on it right now. I'm sure we can get it resolved. And if we're not able to, what we will do, we will read the recording as part of the podcast series, and it should work fine. I believe we may have the problem resolved now. Here we go. Let's try again. Bear with us for just for a few moments. I do apologize for the inconvenience, but this will be repackaged as part of a podcast series, and it will not have these problems. But it is, we got to an important part of the interview, and I just wanted to see if we could get this to work for you. I'm going to ask my guests who are on the panel so far.
believe that the military authorities in Niger would not have said the last word yet. Remember how military operate. They talk less and take more action. So they have weighed it and decided that action needed to be taken instead of going on the media to explain yourself and talk all the talk. At the end of the day, their enemy will know what they are planning and the strategy to counter them. So they have taken a swift action. It's revolutionary. It is a bit wide, if you like, but in the end, it might be in the interest of the people.
Can I now thank you for that? That's a very clear response, and it's difficult to disagree with anything you've said. It's all right, but I'm pleased that we've finally been joined by the professor. First of all, can you hear us, Professor? First of all, Professor Otome, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
I know you had difficulty to gain access to the studio, so you're most welcome. Can I, before I get the conversation going, can I just ask you,
Thank you.
please, Professor, please just to say your name, the organization, and you may just want to spend a minute just to say something about yourself to engage our audience. Your name, organization, just say a little bit about yourself, just so the audience can know who you are. Go ahead.
My name is Pat Utomi. I do wear a few hats, so it makes introducing the organization a little challenging, but I am a professor at Lagos Business School. I lead an organization that I founded about 25 years ago that's called the Center for Values in Leadership. That's really focused on the challenge of leadership on the continent of Africa and how a new generation can emerge with a new consciousness to lead Africa in the right direction. Well, there are many other things you can talk about, but those are the, I guess, most critical things for now.
Thank you for that. It's I have to say that my guest here, the good professor, is of course grossly understating his credentials. Okay, just for the record here, I have had the opportunity to study his work, his life extensively, and is extremely impressive. Okay, and I'm pleased that I have yourself and these other gentlemen in the same podcast because you're all inspirational, and I hope that you will all continue a liaison post after this podcast because there's significant alignment, and in your hands, the future of Africa is safe, in my considered opinion. But Professor, there's a question, and you've just missed a few minutes, but it doesn't matter. There's a question I've just put to the panel, and that question is, we're now in the month of February, and I noted one of the seminal events that took place on the continent, which very rarely happens, is that the government of Niger expelled the Red Cross because, one, they criticized the government for defending the borders, and in some cases, some people got killed. And secondly, they were criticizing the fact that it was a military junta and felt that it was time for them to go to civilian rule, as if, you know. What would your view be on the government of Niger expelling the Red Cross, an organization with a long-standing reputation? What would your view be on this one?
Well, I think that these things do happen, especially when you have a revolutionary change situation.
Mm-hmm.
The Red Cross of its own obviously has stood for non-partisan humanitarian assistance.
Mm-hmm.
But as we all know, it is possible and happens very frequently that such organizations can be penetrated by states and even non-state actors who may then act in ways that may be inappropriate relative to the mission of that organization. I think what is important is to investigate very
Your audio. Your audio.
on a whim this matters. Oh, I was saying that it is important to investigate these matters well, so that the decisions that are made are based on facts.
Agreed. Thank you, Professor. Can I move to Kalanji and the question, if they're on the floor? That is, of course, the expulsion by the government of Niger of the Red Cross. Look, the Red Cross delivers tens of millions of resources. I'm not going to question for now, if you give a Red Cross £100, pounds sterling, because I'm in London here, how much of that £100 will actually get to the people in Niger? Okay? Well, I've seen absurd figures that these organizations can take up to 75% in admin fees, for heaven's sake. So the people on the ground will only get, if you're lucky, 20%, 25% of that £100, under £25. I'm not going to question that for now, but the principle as to why they expelled the International Red Cross. What's your view on this one?
I thank you, Mr. Motivator. I think the government, whether it's a junta or whether it's a civilian government, I think they must have had it on good authority that the Red Cross was doing somewhat devious work on behalf of the West. Yes, notwithstanding, we have recognized that the Red Cross have done outstanding work. Whenever the call to duty, they have done that. But we also recognize that the West always use these institutions to damage or to give misinformation, which are detrimental to the revolutionary ideal of Nigeria mission. I think they were correct to actually take that position, because this position also sent a message to the West that it will not be business as usual whilst we are waking up. We are a young group of Africans, and this is a Pan-Africanist government. With the three joining up, real Pan-Africanism is actually being manifested, and we will not tolerate interference from the West, which the West is our main enemy, right? They have acted detrimental throughout, and there's no real goodness that is coming from them, and nor should we expect any goodness from them right now. They've already shown their true colors. What work in terms of charity, in terms of looking at the work that the Red Cross was doing, it can be done locally by our people. Our people have to go through a process of training. I think Brother Marla I've mentioned the importance of reorientation. This is something that we need to actually go start with. To actually not following the principle or the setup of the West, which is why we are having the kind of problem that we are having. Now, we need to be African, and we need to do things the African way. Before these people came, we had maybe not totally peacefully, but it was far better than what it is now. And I think we need to go back to the redefinition of ourselves and to set our narrative and not to follow the dictate of the West, which is our mortal enemy. They mean us no good. As if they had mean us any good, Africa, reading the compilation by Walter Radley, or Africa, or the West underdeveloped Africa, I think that is good authority to actually understand the mindset of the West, and also to understand the mindset of our bourgeoisie class in trying to be more like the West rather than thinking in a revolutionary sense, which is what Niger is doing. They're looking after themselves, which is what Burkina Faso is doing. I think that's where leadership needs to develop incrementally from there on. I think we need to actually depart from the tradition of the West, how they set the paradigm. We must move away from that if we want freedom.
Yes. And if I may, thank you for that, Kalanji. But and to help the audience here, and I know Kimbada, you will understand what I'm about to say. It's really to further contextualize both the questions and your responses, because you hinted, of course, King Kimbada, that in fact the problem with Africa is that, as you say, these are colonial states, very much under the control of the former colonial powers. Look, the land of my birth, although I've spent virtually all my life here in Britain, is still very much a colonial state. Jamaica, at the point at which Jamaica gained so-called independence, the land was still controlled by the former enslaver families. They control the economy, but yet we're supposedly an independent state, and therefore you could do very little. In fact, in the day of independence, Britain emptied the exchequer. So one of the first duty of the Chancellor of the Chancellor of the Exchequer of Jamaica, the Finance Minister, if you like, was to go to the World Bank for a loan. Can you imagine? Because it was empty. Yep. Do you see? So we started off at a deficit. You're laughing. You see, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Then, of course, we discussed the Francophone countries in West Africa, and you discover, to your horror, that the revenue generated by those countries are all banked in Paris. And Paris decided you might be given back your money, but as a loan to the French. Can you believe that? Yeah. And indeed, all those countries are then being interfered with by external combatants. Typically, I use my language very carefully, jihadist combatants intruding and destabilizing those countries. Okay? We need to get the Islamic combatants here in the studio. We need to talk to them directly, but nevertheless, typically that is the case. It's almost as if the countries, including Jamaica, and I know I'm surrounded by Jamaicans typically, because we're very strong-willed people, and would deny the fact that this is so, that the economies are not our economies. And by virtue of that, therefore, the politicians who have to navigate what is essentially hostile environment appear to be continuously compromising the nations themselves. And awful situation to find ourselves in, and why the events in Burkina Faso is seen as being a seminal event. Okay. But what also
You see,
happened in...
if I,
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
you see, Mr. Motivator, the
Indeed.
West, our colonial masters, still believe that we are idiots.
Can
We
I
are
can I
fools.
make
We
one
are not
request of you?
capable
Forgive me.
of
Forgive me.
managing.
Forgive me for interrupting. Forgive me for interrupting. And I know this term has been used quite often by a number of people here. I strongly resist the term masters. You could say enslavers, yep. You could say exploiters, but never, from a psychological point of view, are there our masters. Never are there our
Thank you.
masters. I want to emphasize that. Praise Jah, Rastafari. Please go ahead. Yes.
The right word is
Okay.
oppressors.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
our oppressor
Yes,
predators,
indeed.
have this conception that we are stupid and we
Ah,
must put our money into their bank, and we have to ask them, please, can I have some of it, and can I have it at an interest rate, and we pay that interest. Now,
mhm.
with Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, the rule have changed. They have decided, look, we are breaking away from this nonsense. If we are independent state, then we will be independent. We are not going to hang on to this legacy. You are right regarding Jamaica. As you know, I was born in Jamaica. I have not spent that much here. I spent more years here in Africa than in Jamaica. But I do understand the mindset of Jamaica, and it's very similar to that of Africa in terms of wanting to please the oppressor right now, and it's that in which we need to actually move away from. And I think that Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali have shown us the definitive way. And I am impressed by these young people, showing that we must look at things in relation to the time that we are in. Gaddafi tried to actually change the trajectory, to make it more people, more Afrocentric. Indeed, Nkrumah had the same concept back in the 1960s. But the fight is between the young people who now seems to have the answer versus the old guys them who want to maintain the colonialist rule, particularly the black bourgeoisie, who are in
Can
the
I?
technical positions. Them they feel
Okay.
that they know better than the
Let me.
people, and this is
Let me.
where. Sorry.
We agree. We agree. We agree. We've got a young person here. No pressure, of course. We're the youngest one here. Do you share the fire that you're hearing? That we want that change. The term revolutionary change has been used, and again for the benefit of the audience. When we say revolutionary change, what we mean is that we're not. There's not a change where we're tinkering around the edges, but we're actually total reform, a new way of delivering those public services, good governance, as opposed to what was imposed and given to us. Okay, do you share that that fire that we need that revolutionary change if we are to progress as a people, as a continent?
Yeah, I do believe that we do need a revolutionary change, but I think sometimes from previous generations, I believe that they were just taking outside concepts and making it black or making it
Mhm,
African. And I
mhm.
think we need for it to be, from my perspective anyway, and others within my age group that I have conversations with, there is a real need to deconstruct all the way and realize that maybe what we are thinking is within a construct of a creation that is not really ours or of our origin. So I
Mhm.
do believe that there is a need for revolution, but I think there's to construct some of these ideas that maybe that predecessors have run with, but realizing that it's just a trap at the end of it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And Professor, I want to come
Can I
to
make a
you.
point? Yes. Okay.
Of course. Yes, yes. Go ahead, Professor. Yeah,
All
go
right.
ahead.
I have grown up looking at these issues from different perspectives. When we were in uni 50 years or so back, we fed ourselves on Walter Rodney and how Europe underdeveloped Africa and all of that. And when I was in grad school in the United States in the 1970s, I had a very interesting encounter with a leader of a school, if you will, at the time, a school of thought, generally referred to as dependency theory. The dependistas, as they were called, they were largely Latin American scholars. And that man would eventually end up president of Brazil. His name is Henrique Fernando Cardoso.
Yes.
Now, I had an encounter with Cardoso after his time as president, and I reminded him of our first meeting when I was a grad student in 1979. And I said to him at that first meeting, you know, I like the elegance of dependency theory. My problem is I want to free my people, and I don't see dependency theory offering me a way out.
Indeed.
And so through the years, I have kind of been more realistic about the nature of the morality of power politics and how power plays and how you can achieve more sometimes by just being positive of it. Because Enrique Cardoso would become foreign minister when he returned from exile from ECLA to Brazil. And as he told me at that second meeting, he had arrived in New York as foreign minister at the time the economy in Brazil was falling apart. The lifespan in office of the finance minister was a few months because inflation was going out of, the charts and all of that. And everybody wanted this finance minister out. The next one came in, he was out. And he got a call from the president at the time and said to him, Professor Cardoso, how would you like to be finance minister? I mean, nobody wished that upon themselves at that time. And he said to him, okay, I'm about to make a major speech before the National General Assembly. Why don't we talk tomorrow? And after his speech, he returned to his hotel room, and he got a call from his wife. And his wife said to me, how would you do this? I said, do what? How would you accept to be finance minister? I said, I've not done any such thing. You've not? It's been announced you are the new finance minister.
Oh.
And yeah. And Cardoso said he had to make a decision to either say, no, I didn't agree, or take it by the chin and go out there and rough out a new way of looking at things as finance minister. He decided he was going to accept the position and put together some of Brazil's brightest young economists and said to them, fight as much as you want. When you begin to get close to consensus, invite me in. He was very popular as a leader from his work as a dependista at ECLA. So he said he would put all of his credibility on the line to support what they all agreed to was the way to go. Interestingly, because I was a very close follower of the dependency thesis, both an admirer of the elegance of the theory and a big critic of the fact that it wasn't giving me solutions, I knew that some of the solutions that dependistas were prescribing included what they call selective delinking from international capitalism. And people like Osvaldo Sonkel and all of those. But these bright economies that Cardoso had put together basically went the exact opposite of all of those kinds of prescriptions. And Cardoso literally committed intellectual suicide by putting his reputation behind them. But guess what? Inflation came to a screeching halt. In accepting globalization rather than selective delinking from international capitalism, Brazilian economy began to grow and all of that. I mean, Cardoso became so popular that he became president. And I think back in those days was the first person to get re-elected president in Brazil. So if you take those kinds of experiences and you look at how the Asians broke out of where they are, I think perhaps sometimes we should be less aggressive on talk and ideology and be more clever thinking in terms of how we can really set our people free. Besides the experience of Calypso, I look at Asia and how the Asians got out of the same kinds of traps. If you return to the Caribbean, look at what France did to Haiti. People forget that in 1789, Haiti had the highest per capita income in the world.
It did.
Haiti, 1789. France conspired with the United States of America, embargoed Haiti, and reduced it to the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere.
Yep.
So, with greater wisdom, circumnavigating the cunning and conspiracies of amoral power players have been better for the people of Haiti, or going head on and being where Haiti got to? I don't know what's right. I don't know what's wrong. I'm just saying that it's good for us to be broader in our thinking of these matters.
Thank you. And that's a very useful insight as to how we respond to institutions which often, though, Professor, are not perceived to be benefiting the long-term interest of Africa. We're certainly not promoting investment which is not tied to a list of restrictions or requirements that actually hold the countries back. But I want to pursue that this theme. But before saying that, we're now in March of 2025, and I want to note that we're in the Caribbean. That Barbuda council elections, that Barbuda Antigua, the Barbuda People's Movement. I'm going to pause it there. Okay, and you can see the panel beginning to warm up. Okay, and what we will do with this interview, it will be a podcast containing a full series podcast. It should be available on Monday. Okay, there's a lot of work to put into it. The panel raised quite a few very interesting reference points, which will include into the podcast and add additional clarity and points made as it progresses. But the podcast is intended to inform and, of course, inspire. Remember, it's the Motivator Show, where we translate these words into action. It is expected, therefore, that you will share the contents of the final re-edited version of this interview, okay, with your family, your friends, your wider network to spread the word. Okay, it was truly a powerful panel, truly powerful. And you've only just touched the tip of the iceberg. You said we're only in March at the moment. We've got 7 other months to go. So just give you some idea. The quality of the debate. It doesn't happen enough, unfortunately, but I'm assuring you what follows will be truly inspirational. So give us until Monday and it will be ready for your delectation. But before we close this podcast, I want to give a big shout out. And if you're in the UK, you'll understand. There is amongst a number of issues, but another issue we want to raise here on the Motivator show and more recent guest, and that's of course Anthony Brown. We're calling for a Windrush Act. We're calling for a Windrush Act. So those who are directly impacted by the Home Office hostile environment and have then cause and find themselves in destitution should be protected by the law, indeed by Parliament, because it is Parliament that took away their status, their right to remain in Britain. Okay. Effectively, in some cases, made them stateless. The result is a human, I believe it is a crime against humanity. What has happened to some people? Some people have died as a result of the Windrush scandal. I want to commend Anthony Brown for leading the charge on the Windrush Act. Okay. And I just want to play just 30 seconds of the intro video to that particular podcast. And it's important for you all to pay attention to this, because this is a campaigning podcast. We don't sit down and just watch. We're expecting the listeners, the viewers, to hear the information and to respond to the information. Listen to this. I'm going to play this for 2 minutes. I just want you to listen. Then I'll then refer you to his contact. Here we go. We're calling for a Windrush Act. Let's review what we called for in July 2024. The Windrush Act. We say to the Labour government, we are still waiting. A message for the Windrush pioneers and their descendants. The Labour Party's general election promise, July 2024. Sir Keir Starmer pledged a fundamental reset to promote respect and dignity for the Windrush generations amidst plans to prevent such a scandal from being repeated. His plans include appointing a Windrush Commissioner, opening up access to the compensation scheme, and re-establishing the Windrush unit in the Home Office as part of an effort to improve the relationship between the government and the Windrush generation. He accused the Tories, the Conservatives, of having presided over a failing compensation scheme, the disbanding of the Major Change Programme, and a complete unwillingness to learn the lessons of the Windrush scandal. He said, justice has taken too long for the Windrush community. A government that I lead won't let this happen again. And where the Tories have dragged their feet, I am determined to get money out of the door to compensate those who were failed by the state. Sir Keir Starmer also added, the Windrush generation embodies the best of Britain: determination, spirit, public service, and graft. But instead of being thanked, they've been badly mistreated. A Labour government will offer a fundamental reset moment for the Windrush generation, with respect and dignity at its very core. So Keir Starmer, that's the issue at hand. We want to encourage many of you, either in the UK, the Caribbean or Africa, to get behind that campaign. And I'll put up the contact details for Anthony Brown, and there you go. We're calling for a Windrush Act. Actions speak louder than words. The time for action is now. Translate our words into action. Contact WD Legal at www.wdlegal.co.uk. Join the campaign to secure the Windrush Act. Together, we will make the difference. This is absolutely true. In unity is strength. So that was an important step forward. And the last quick message before I close, and again, it had been mentioned earlier on by Lee Jasper, and the devastation caused by the Category 5 Hurricane Melissa. Winds of over 185 miles an hour, causing significant structural damage to homes and businesses across the island. It's important, therefore, that those of us who are able to give generously so that the island can rebuild, so that it can come back better, as the saying goes. We want to ensure that that happens. I want to compliment the members of PNP UK who've been leading that charge of ensuring that we do not forget. Okay, I want to compliment them and their efforts to raise the resources for a school building. In other words, children not able to go to school because their building was destroyed or the roof is completely removed. So we want to ensure that at least one school, and we'll start with one and we go to others thereafter. Let's watch the short appeal. Here we go. The New Building Early Childhood Institution is located in the community of New Building on premises owned by the community. The institution is in close proximity to the Junction Town Centre. The institution began operation in 1978 with 14 students and one teacher practitioner and a cook. The school population kept growing and growing over the years, and after operating for 33 years in the same location, it grew out of the facility. In the year 2011, with an enrollment of over 60 students, the school was relocated to its present location in the New Building Community Centre. Presently, there are 36 students, that's 22 girls and 14 boys, enrolled at the school. They cater for children aged 3 to 6 years from the New Building and surrounding communities. The institution now has a staff complement of 4 staff members, 1 principal trained teacher, and 2 practitioners, and a cook. Your help to rebuild the school will be greatly appreciated by a very humble community. Yes, and just to declare that, of course, I am referring to the Hurricane Melissa that impacted the Caribbean islands of Jamaica and indeed Haiti. So yes, it is vitally important that we do not forget the devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa and the ongoing destruction and its impact on that society. We must never forget. And we can only hope that they do not have a repeat of this next year. Because last year they had Hurricane Beryl, this year was Hurricane Melissa with even greater wind intensity. Okay. And if in doubt, I say to people, ask questions. So what I'm going to do, I'm put on the screen details how you can contact the PNP UK. The Disaster Relief Fund is at NatWest Bank, sort code 600802, account number 298612333, and please include in your reference DRF Melissa. Again, if I've read it too quickly, you could always replay this recording. All right, there you go. I think that's now it. For today. As I say again, the panel interview that we partially played today will be available in a podcast series in full on Monday. It'll be a series of four parts, okay, so that you can watch it in bite-sized chunks. It is truly an inspired group of people, and they fed off each other. They were so creative, so intelligent, so inspiring. I have to say to you, I was truly privileged to be in their company. Until the next time, I remember the motivator. And that means, of course, that we translate these words into actions, because success is ours. Hey, for the future, huh? Yes, I'm feeling high on life. "2025 was not a quiet year. It was not a year of waiting. It was a year of movement. Across Africa and the Caribbean, men and women of African heritage did something powerful in 2025. They acted. They refused invisibility. They rejected small thinking. They stood up in boardrooms, in classrooms, in parliaments, in streets, studios, labs, farms, and digital spaces, and said, "We are here and we are shaping the future." In 2025, African and Caribbean leaders didn't just respond to the world, they redefined their role in it. Women stepped forward as decision makers, not side notes, from governance to climate action, from education reform to community rebuilding. After storms and conflict, African and Caribbean women proved again that leadership with empathy is leadership with strength. They built consensus where others pushed division. They organized where systems failed. They carried communities forward when the odds said stop. Men rose too, not as symbol of dominance, but as builders, protectors, innovators, and mentors. Entrepreneurs created jobs where none existed. Young men used technology, art, and activism to challenge corruption, police brutality, and economic exclusion. Elders passed wisdom forward, grounding progress in memory and identity. In 2025, African heritage was not just something remembered, it Historic cooperation between Africa and the Caribbean, trade, diplomacy, culture, reparative justice, and shared strategy. Not symbolic handshakes, but real frameworks, real conversations, real plans, a recognition that separated by ocean does not mean divided by destiny. We saw youth refuse silence. They questioned power. They demanded accountability. They turned pain into platforms and platforms into purpose. We saw artists and storytellers reclaim the narrative, no longer asking for permission to be celebrated. Music, film, literature, fashion, and digital media carried African heritage into global consciousness with pride, intelligence, and originality. We saw resilience tested by storms, insecurity, economic pressure, and still people rose, not because it was easy, but because giving up is not in our heritage. Giving up is not in our heritage. Why does this matter? Because 2025 wasn't an endpoint, it was a signal. It showed us what happens when a people remember their worth, organize their energy, align their vision. It's proven that progress doesn't arrive by accident. It is built by discipline, hope, and courageous action. It is built by discipline, hope, and courageous action. And that's why 2026 will be even bigger. In 2026, the seeds planted in 2025 will grow louder, stronger, and more coordinated. More African-led innovation, more Caribbean-driven policy influence, more women shaping national agendas, more young people turning protest into policy, ideas into institutions, and dreams into enterprises. The confidence is already there. The networks are already forming. The mindset has already shifted. The mindset has already shifted. What changes next year is scale.